to depart from the programmatic stuff and really give folks a sense for the big picture. I think individuals that are working on various greening initiatives in the aviation sector will recognize, and I hope, where some of their projects fit into this big picture. But I really wanted to give sort of a 30,000-foot view. What's really driving this desire and need for greening aviation? And then with that in mind as sort of context, what are the strategies? And these strategies are really common to these various authorities. What are the common strategies that folks are taking towards this initiative? So not to diminish environmental issues like noise and local air quality, which I will come back to, in terms of drivers, the key driver is fuel burn. The number 2 driver is fuel burn. The number 3 driver is fuel burn. I want to spend a good chunk of time this afternoon on pillars and strategies. And these are not a particular organization's pillars and strategies, but if you look across the aviation industry, you start to see very common themes. And the themes are fairly consistent whether you look at the airlines, the certificating authorities, or even the research organizations. And they tend to focus in on 4 particular areas: technology improvements, operational improvements, alternative fuels, at least in the area of CO2 life cycle reduction or fuel burn reduction, and market-based measures. And the whole idea here, at least from the standpoint of strategies and greening, is to reduce the carbon footprint. So to do that from an alternative fuel standpoint, you really need to look at the full life cycle, from the actual feedstock right to drop in to the aircraft. Major accomplishments recently, certification of a number of alternative fuel types. We've had a handful, but continually growing actual commercial flights with alternative fuels on them, with certified fuels that actually flying passengers all across the U.S., Australia, as well as Europe. Obviously, we've got to get to a point where cost is reasonable. Right now, the investment is in the technology, and I think that is important, and hopefully that stays. You want to try to get to a point where you are offsetting the growth, the demand in aviation, with these various strategies and pillars. And ultimately, what you want to do is be able to measure where you are. One of the things I like to do, and this is sort of the balance of the stakeholder community that I live within in ICAO, is try to put aviation in context. You look at 200 million metric tons of fuel. Wow, that's a lot of fuel. But when you put aviation in context with the other transport modes, it's important to get a sense. Although it's a fast-growing mode in terms of demand, particularly when you look at the Asia-Pacific region and the Middle East, it's based on IEA fuel use data. It's still 10 to 12% of global fuel usage. Just a couple of points. I think, aviation, obviously essential to the U.S. economy. A bit more than 5% of the U.S. gross domestic product, so big industry. And I think, one of the things we continually see is the U.S. through ICAO, also in the environmental arena, continues to be a global leader, and that's important. If you get anything out of my talk today, is there's no silver bullet solution. There is no, in terms of this greening, it's a multi-pillared approach, a multi-strategy approach to solving the problem. And it's going to take some time. And we're going to need some breakthroughs.